After watching Skinamarink, I really thought that there was no other film this year that could possibly match how bad that piece of crap film was. Well, I just watched The Outwaters, and yeah, this film's really bad. Let's talk about it. Four travelers encounter menacing phenomena while camping in a remote stretch of the Mojave Desert. The film stars Robbie Banfitch, Angela Basolis, Scott Schamell, Michelle May, and Leslia Ann Banfitch, and was directed by Robbie Banfitch. Going into The Outwaters, I knew nothing about this film other than the fact that my theater had gotten it this past week, and I found out that it was a found footage film, and I also was talking to a fellow YouTuber, and I was talking to them about how much I really hated Skinamarink, and she mentioned that apparently this film, The Outwaters, was very similar in the way that it was experimental, just like Skinamarink. And before I was even going into the film, I was like, oh, no, I really hope it's not like that. I mean, the fact that this takes place in a desert, I was thinking, well, what are they going to do? Cactus shots, sand shots, feet shots again? The film had a $15,000 budget, very similar to Skinamarink's budget, and the film is 100 minutes long. What we know about these characters is not a lot. We get a pretty decent start where we have a 911 call that appears on screen. The screen is black, and it talks about all these different people are missing, and it lists their age. And we find out that they have 3 different tapes that they found this recording as all these different people went missing. So that didn't sound too bad starting off. But then we get to meet these characters, and we don't really know a lot about these characters. Being that this movie is 100 minutes long, we get 50 minutes of these people headed to the desert, and we know that they're making a music video, and they have somebody that likes to sing in the group, and that's really all we really know about these characters. The Outwaters is what I would consider a very much experimental movie that just throws everything at the wall and just sees what sticks. There's not much of a narrative. When it becomes nightfall and there is a point where we see a bunch of blood on the ground and apparently a bunch of scary stuff goes down, we can never see on screen what happens because all we're actually shown on screen is this camera that has a flashlight. It's night out, and we get to see just a small little flashlight on this camera. We'll get points where we get science fiction moments where somebody is teleporting to another dimension. We have no reason why that is or what is going on. There's no cohesive narrative to really sum up what is going on. There's even a point in this movie where people are talking and the screen is just completely black. I swear it's black for at least 5 minutes of the film, and we see absolutely nothing. There's parts in the movie where you hear a bunch of screaming, you hear some screechy noises, and it sounds like there may be some type of creature that is involved, but again, you don't really get to see too much. It seems like it has to involve some type of snake. As the movie does get to the back half, it seems like it gets worse and worse, and it's really going through different phases of different horror moments. There is points where there is blood and gore, but I never felt that it was too disgusting or anything that you couldn't really handle. And you could never tell who had the camera or where they're going or where they're walking to or where they're even at the present time, because half the time the camera is pointed down at the ground. I was thinking to myself, when we saw all these different characters actually doused in blood, are they bleeding out or are they just smeared with blood all over themselves? There's a point in this film where you have a woman that's just grabbing her breast and she's got blood all over her tit. The film gets so incoherent, and then it gets kind of repetitive at points as well. There's even one shot in this film where it goes the science fiction route, and we get a black screen with a bunch of white lights, and again, we can't really make out anything that is really going on. This has got to be the worst camera work in the history of found footage films. Half the time, the cameraman is focusing on shots down at the ground, toes, trails of blood, sand, you name it. The camera is down at the ground and you can't see a darn thing. And I think maybe this has to do with the budget here, because some of the things they could have shown on screen, I don't think they do it, mainly because a $15,000 budget doesn't really give you that much. So I think whatever was happening to these characters, they weren't going to show up because they just simply didn't have the budget. Bottom line consensus with this movie is it's just really bad, and you guys should not check it out in theaters. I would give a score of this film a half star out of 5. I think this film insults the audience as a whole, and I think it just doesn't have any narrative to really bring to the table. It's a wasted film and wasted to even put into a theater, and it's kind of a bad sign also for funding when before you actually see the film, there's about 3, 4, 5 different studios to actually throw up on the screen before we get into the actual movie. You know that there was probably some hard time getting that budget to actually make this film. This is just too much experimental crap for me. This is terrible. It's probably around my first, second worst film of the year, maybe beating Skinamarink. I think Skinamarink was a little bit worse than this film, but this film was still pretty bad as well. But let me know in the comments, are you going to check out this film? If you have checked out this film, what did you guys think about it? Did you like it? Did you hate it? Was it kind of meh? Be really interested to check out what you guys think about this film. Thank you guys for checking out this review, and I will see you guys on my next video.